Hello and welcome to the Love with Bipolar podcast. This is a place where we have the conversations about love and relationships while living with bipolar. My name is Ana Ruiz and I am your host. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder 20 years ago, and I've been on a healing journey ever since. I'm also a relationship coach and trauma healing specialist. And today's episode is about mothers living with bipolar. And I want to dedicate this episode to my mother, Christina, who has been living with bipolar before I was even born. And she currently lives in Mexico City, and she'll probably watching from there. So, a couple of months ago, I had a conversation with a woman in Europe who was sharing with me her struggles growing up with her mother living with bipolar and how those struggles continued for her as an adult. And that's why I was inspired to record this episode. So I'm going to be sharing about my personal experience, and there's a lot more that I share in my upcoming book memoir that I'm currently working on. But I want to start by acknowledging that motherhood is the hardest job in the world, and it's also the most impactful in raising the future generations. So, if you're a mother living with bipolar, your job is already a lot harder than for most mothers out there. So I was 7 months old when my older sister died under my parents' watch. So my mother was devastated with grief and also guilt and shame for what happened. So she went into a really deep depression. Now, I unconsciously took responsibility for what happened and for keeping my mother alive. And I know this doesn't make sense logically, but this is just what happens with kids. So, about 18 months later, my brother was born and he was premature. So, he had to be in the NICU for a couple months. So, my mother spent all day by the phone expecting a call from the hospital that my brother didn't make it. So, while I was growing up, my mother's nervous system was very compromised. She was often just scared and feeling guilty about what happened with my sister. So she behaved in ways where she was very controlling towards me and my brother, and she was very strict with us. I grew up having a lot of resentments, and I sometimes hated my mother for how she treated me. And at the same time, I was conflicted because I was supposed to love her. But as children, we don't know the nuances about feelings. My mother was often sick, and she still is. And that's a result of her body speaking up about the emotions that she has suppressed. And so I wanted a mother who loved me, who cheered me on, who gave me attention. And my mom just couldn't give me that. Oftentimes she was in her room, sleeping or watching TV or feeling depressed. And when she was around me and my brother, she was very sensitive to noises. So my brother and I had to keep quiet and not make loud noises. So, as an adult, I started therapy when I was about 31 years old, and that was before I was diagnosed with bipolar. And I started therapy because one of the reasons was I wanted to work on my relationship with her. And my therapist helped me some, but she was also estranged from her own daughters. So she was limited in her ability to help me. And it was over a year ago that I am very grateful that I met Dr. Nima Ramani. He's a nervous system and trauma healing specialist who before that was a chiropractor doctor. And he helped me break free from the pattern of codependency and enmeshment that I have been running with my mom for most of my life, and helped me individuate from her so that I don't put my emotions on her or take on her emotions. I also learned how to set boundaries with kindness. And I learned how to handle my triggers so that I have tools for whenever I feel activated, when conflict happens with my mother. And I stopped the codependency on my teachers and mentors. Because up until now, I had shifted the codependency on romantic relationships, but I had a blind spot when it comes to teachers and mentors, because I put them on pedestals. So now I love my mother, and I can genuinely say that. A relationship isn't perfect or easy, but when it's good, it's really good. And when it's not, I have tools that work. So, one of the benefits for me of all of this is that since I was little, growing up with my mother, I learned to read other people's emotions. And that's now a really important skill in the work that I do, helping people with their relationships. I developed that skill thanks to how I grew up around my mother. And as a result of doing my work, I can embrace those experiences and I wouldn't change a thing. So I want to share three suggestions for you if you are currently living with a mother with bipolar. So, number one, if you have a relationship of codependency or enmeshment with your mother, where your emotional well being depends on her or hers on yours, do your work to break free from the codependency and enmeshment so that you can individuate from your mother and be free to be who you are, and also stop bringing those patterns to your friendships and romantic relationships. Number two, learn to love yourself and stop expecting your mother to love you or give you the attention you crave, because only you can give yourself the love exactly the way you want it. So learn to love yourself and stop expecting your mother to do that for you. Number three, if you currently live with bipolar, do the work to live well, um, despite the bipolar. And this is something that I help my clients with. And it's important that you don't blame your mother for the mental illness. It's true that one factor to develop bipolar is genetic, and that is combined with trauma and environmental factors. So it's not genetics alone. So it's not your mother's fault. Now, in my case, my mother has bipolar. My grandma, her mother, had narcissistic disorder. So mental illness is in my mother's line genetically. And this is especially important if you have children. You owe it to them to do your work and break the cycle. So thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Also, if you have any insights or want to share any personal experiences, I will circle back later and read all the comments. And if you have any topics that you want me to talk about in future episodes, feel free to leave me a comment or message me. And I'll see you in the next episode. Ciao, ciao.